Hey there, YouTube. A warm welcome from the controversial Marek. Listen up. Today is a very important day. In my opinion, today is the most important day of the year. Why is that? Because today we have the decision regarding interest rates. And why do I say we have the decision today? I'll explain that in a moment. But right at the start, remember that everything you see and hear in this video is not investment advice, it's just my personal opinion. Looking for advice? Go somewhere else. And now let's get down to business, because there's a lot going on. Listen, today we have the interest rate decision at 8 p.m. Polish time. Analysts are forecasting that the rates will remain at their current level. But why do I say that today is the most important day of the year? Because today is the day when Trump has been putting a lot of pressure on Powell in recent days, weeks, and months. And we are dealing with a day when Powell, if he wants to keep his position, will have to declare that even if he doesn't cut interest rates now, he will do so at the next meeting, which could trigger massive gains in the market. Now, if today we were to get a rate cut even by just 25 basis points down to 4.25, I think we would see a very, very strong rally in Bitcoin, in Ethereum, and who knows, maybe across the entire market, maybe even in altcoins as well. I'm not able to predict to what levels it might go, whether it will, for example, sweep liquidity from above, then get suppressed, say, at the end of the week or over the weekend, and only then finally rally upwards. I haven't really thought yet about the logic behind such a move. I'm not looking for logic here. I'm simply looking for strong confirmation on the spot. And looking at what's happening, namely the interest rates, I believe that today, the 30th of July 2025, will go down in history, at least during this presidential term of Trump. That's because Trump is putting a lot of pressure on Powell. Powell is unyielding, but I think he will be the first to give in, that POTUS will simply have everyone by the balls here. POTUS, meaning Trump. So, my dear friends, let's move on to the market. What I want to share with you is a few pieces of information from Aquantica from yesterday. We saw a freshly opened gap in its entirety, and we have a nice reaction. Yes, this is about Bitcoin, my friends. Next, Linea has released its tokenomics, so yes, we're waiting for another airdrop. If you want access to all of this, my friends, just click the link below. Join our free group, which already has almost 7,500 members. Here I post the various interesting information, our results, updates from our sponsors, the achievements of our community, my levels, and descriptions of situations as I see them. So listen, it's really worth being here, and if you want to join the paid group, you can still do it today and tomorrow for just 200 zlotys. Just click on the pin message to see how to get the discount. It's really very simple. Starting from the 1st of August, the price will go up by over 200%, so I think it's worth looking into. Main features are also included. We're doing things, making some money, trading a bit, so I think it's worth being with us. Mentoring, all the Zoom sessions. Okay, I won't do any more marketing. Listen, now let's get to it. Let's push through what I want to show you, because you also have access to this information for those 200 zlotys. Yes, I know, it's a ridiculous price. We took the H4 fair value gap to new highs, and we can drop back down to the bottom of the range again to close the entire gap. Okay, the dominance looks really interesting. This is what I want to share with you. Take a look at how the dominance looks. Quantic posted this image where there's a triangle with a breakout to the downside. A very similar situation actually happened on the Bitcoin chart just before the collapse of the FTX exchange. I traded all of these rebounds, and usually they happened around events. I remember it like it was today, the 13th of September, when I was opening big shorts actually. I was opening big shorts almost from the very top during the American session, and I really held that short all the way down. So I like to play out this pattern. And we have exactly this pattern on dominance right now. Take a look. No matter how you look at it, we're really dealing here with this kind of triangle, which has lower highs and equal lows. Okay, so with this kind of triangle, especially with this RSI, it's very likely that we'll break out to the downside. And if that happens, then the bull market will continue in full swing. That's how I see it. USDT dominance market. So my friends, very interesting information. On the vast majority of exchanges ahead of tomorrow's FOMC, there are more shorts than longs. That's also very interesting that we have a majority of people shorting, my friends. But also when I checked on max data, this advantage was actually even a bit bigger than here. So that's very interesting. BlackRock does not expect a rate cut from the Fed tomorrow. Today, the market has more or less already priced that in. I'm curious about tomorrow because investors already know and are expecting no rate cut. So theoretically, today should be the point of maximum pain on the chart. Time will tell. So my dear friends, listen. From a technical standpoint, here's an update on Ether, minting NFTs for 10 years on Ethereum, blah, blah, blah. Today at 8 p.m. we have the VMC and then a conference. This event will fuel the markets and determine whether we break out of the flag on Bitcoin and head for a new all-time high. For now, this seems more likely because after holding yesterday's fair value gap on the H4 and the news about no rate cut, we're seeing a nice reaction. Will we re-enter the daily fair value gap zone again? So now I'll show you this on the chart. My dear friends, the entire fair value gap zone from the daily is actually this range, which I'll mark for you here with a colored rectangle. My friends, this is exactly the level, this is exactly the zone. This is what Quantic means when talking about dropping from the D1 into the fair value gap. Looking, my dear friends, strictly technically at Bitcoin, looking at the H1, H4 and D1 timeframes, it all looks quite favorable to me for a rebound from here, especially considering the weekend strategy, which involves liquidity grabs, weekend manipulation during New York hours, and distribution in the opposite direction. It would all fit together for this to actually mark a local bottom here, and from there look for an upward move. Nevertheless, my dear friends, you have to keep in mind that this zone can also be in play, but most often what happens is that we enter this zone just like here. I treat this as the D1, meaning boom, we entered here and immediately got a reversal from there. I'll show you this on the D1 chart. If someone can't quite picture it, it looks more or less like this. And those two levels of mine, that is 117,286 and 119,250 rounded off, are holding the price very, very, very nicely, which means there's a good chance we'll see a reaction from here. However, taking into account that yesterday showed a lot of indecision because that's what's called a doji candle, and the previous day we had declines, meaning Monday was full of fake outs, Tuesday was very likely a local bottom, and Wednesday and Thursday is very possible we should see an upward move. But everything will become clear because trading around events, my friends, is basically a lottery, no matter how you look at it. So why do I call it a lottery? Because even though the lack of a rate cut might immediately trigger a downward move right after the results, during the press conference, if, for example, Jerome Powell says, listen, we didn't cut rates this time, but we plan to do so at the next meeting, and even if they don't actually plan to do it and he just says it to appease Trump, the market should price that in and there should be an upward move based on that, and then we'll see a sell the news type of trade. As for Ether, my friends, Ether is holding up much better than Bitcoin. There's absolutely no question about that. And while there is one very, 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 very nice zone here that a lot of crypto influencers are focusing on, especially the American ones, which is right here. I don't know why it's this gap in particular and not, for example, this one. I just can't understand it. Maybe it's because this is the first one we haven't reached yet. That seems reasonable and logical to me. But let's take a look at Ether on the H4 time frame as well. I would sooner expect it. I would expect it to reach somewhere around here. In this area, maybe even on the H4, it would actually make more sense, especially since we've already touched this level here. Oh, you see, this is also what I showed you on Bitcoin, that we have this fair value gap. So a drop and then an immediate pull up to a new local high. So that's how I see it. So is this zone valid or not? I don't know. However, for me, the most crucial level to break on Ethereum, let me mark it for you. Let's see how this marker highlights it. This is the level O. Awesome. This is the one. This is a very important level. And the second very important one is this zone from which I also expect a reaction. Even if we were to go for what's called liquidity, we'd most likely end up here. However, honestly speaking, if I were to speculate and consider the possibilities, I truly think the realistic and probable range, I'll be completely honest with you on this, of a potential drop that I would genuinely expect to see is right around here. Maybe the liquidity below this wick, because remember, in the end, people have to be fooled, right? Because it's the market makers who are supposed to profit, so not reaching the zone, that kind of thing, or even just the reaction from here, from this level, and a move up, that's something that makes sense. For now, I'm not commenting on alts. Most of them look very good. They're accumulating nicely. Look, on the H4, we're seeing some pullbacks, which honestly are to be expected here. And even if we look at it from this perspective trade, the impulse after a change of character that broke the structure, even a move down to these levels would make sense. But honestly, I'm not sure if that's not already too low. I'm positioned long on one altcoin. We'll see how that turns out. But ultimately, I'm focusing on Bitcoin and Ethereum. So my friends, listen, today is an extremely important day. To sum up, why? Because we have interest rates, the FOMC statement, and a press conference where a lot of important information could be revealed. So if you want real-time access to all of this and don't want to wait for my updates, you can find everything in the F.I.R.E CREW group. You're warmly invited. There's a link in the description. On top of that, there are mentoring sessions, Zoom calls, our meetings, and so on. You also get access to my private trades that I make. So there's quite a bit included. My dear friends, I warmly invite you to check it out, to join us, and to take part in all of this together with us. Sending you my best regards, dear friends. Take care.